What separates those who really go forward and experience healthy relationships and those who stay stuck in the same patterns and cycles is... Hey everyone, Cheryl here. Welcome back to my YouTube machine. Thank you for being here. Let's talk about why it is that love is so difficult for you. I know for me, for a really, really long time, I'm in my 30s now, fast approaching 35, and it doesn't seem that long ago that I was in my teens, my 20s, and I was just wondering, why is it love's really hard for me? Why is this so difficult for me? And other people are getting married, they're meeting soulmates, they just meet someone and it works and they get married and they stay together and have kids and it's easy. Why is it easy for them? Why is it hard for me? And I really couldn't wrap my mind around it. Now, after doing a decade plus of inner work, I know why that is. There are 3 reasons why some people struggle with love and others don't, and I'm going to go through those 3 reasons today. My voice is very, very croaky because I've been sick, so please do excuse my voice if it gives out or I start coughing. It is that time of year. I'm getting a lot better. I feel a lot better, but I'm at that stage of it where I'm feeling better and sounding worse, so here we are. The first reason is upbringing. If someone has parents that love each other and they're raised in a home where their parents have really healthy conflict resolution and their parents are very self-aware, perhaps even very conscious, dare I even say spiritual, but either way, they work through things. It's an emotionally healthy environment, it's an emotionally safe environment, and it's a relationship that is working well. People who are raised in an environment where their parents really love each other and have a great relationship will quite quickly meet the person they share their life with in their early 20s, they'll get married and it will work because they have a healthy model of what a relationship looks like and it's second nature. They're familiar with it, they know it, it's easy for them. And there's others who were raised in an environment where their parents were fighting all the time, or maybe their parents separated, or perhaps for you, you only knew one of your parent or neither of them. So whatever the environment was in your family home is really going to dictate how relationships work for you. Now, there are a lot of reasons as to why that is the case. Why is this? It's because we replicate what we see when we're younger. So you know in the animal kingdom how animals tend to copy the older ones. So if you've ever raised a kitten or a puppy, they'll look to the older cat or the older dog to figure out what their species do. And they go, oh, we chase mice, or oh, we run after the ball, we wag our tails. You know, they look at the elder of their species to figure out how to be. We're not that different. We like to think we're different from the animals. We're not, we're animals too. So when we're kids, we are, and of course this is subconscious, we're not consciously thinking this, but we are looking around to go, how do I be an adult? How am I in relationships? How does this all work? And we look to the people around us. That works really, really well when we're learning to walk and talk and all that good stuff. But when it comes to relationships though, we're looking to the people immediately around us. That's usually our parents. So we're looking to them to see what relationships look like. And if that model is broken, that is going to go in our subconscious, and it takes a lot of inner work to change that. And that's why step number 2 is inner work. So if you haven't had the best upbringing with regards to seeing a healthy model for relationships, and considering at the moment about 60% of all marriages end in divorce, it's more than likely you are in the majority of people who didn't have a model for a healthy relationship. Then one thing that separates those of us who struggle with relationships all our lives versus those who figure it out and start to have healthy relationships in both love and in life, business, and everyday life in general, what separates those who really go forward and experience healthy relationships and those who stay stuck in the same patterns and cycles is inner work. And what I mean by that in a very non-bullshit way is the willingness to look at our own stuff. It wasn't your fault that you were raised in the environment that you were, but it's now your responsibility as an adult to make a choice. And that choice should be, in my humble, not so humble opinion, that choice should be, I'm going to choose to look at this because this has actually caused me so much pain that I don't want to stay where I am. Now, I was hosting a workshop recently and I had one of my participants at the end say, you know, we were doing a share in a circle at the end and I said, let's all share one of our biggest takeaways. Now, one of the ladies shared that one of her takeaways was to think about how many of her relationship patterns she should work on and heal, and how many she should just accept and love about herself. And I found that to be a really, really interesting observation, and I knew exactly where she was coming from. And the perspective that she had is that it's deeply self-loving to accept of yourself, and it is. But my perspective is this: if you went to the doctors and they said to you, look, you've had a bit of a health scare, now you're at risk of having another health scare, but if you change your eating habits and your exercise and you sleep better and you really reduce your stress and you add more meaning and purpose to your life, then the chances of you having another health scare are drastically reduced. So you could say, well, I love and accept myself, so I'm actually not going to change. That's not loving. That's not loving yourself. It's not loving yourself to look at the things that are causing you harm and to not do anything about it. That being said, we do have to look at this through the lens of love, in that we have to be compassionate towards ourselves as we're healing. But that's probably another topic for another time too. So the willingness to look at our stuff and to look at our part in a relationship instead of just blaming the other person, our willingness to say the words, I'm the common denominator and I'm willing to look at that now, that really helps us to have healthy relationships. And the third and final point is application. What do I mean by application? So it means that perhaps your upbringing was a little rocky in terms of healthy relationships. Perhaps your mum and dad were fighting all the time. Very, very common, right? And perhaps you've done the inner work. You've looked at yourself. You've watched videos like this. You've listened to podcasts. You've read relationship books. The third part of this is application, which means you're applying everything that you've learned to your own life. I cannot tell you the amount of people that have all of this information about relationships, but it's not integrated. They haven't actually applied it to their own life. So they might be able to talk a really good game about conflict resolution, but when it comes to conversations where conflict arises, they want to really go in and attack rather than reaching a peaceful resolution. It's people who talk about the inner work and say, oh, well, I have these relationship patterns, and then they choose to do the very thing that keeps them in that pattern. So they know that they attract unavailable men or unavailable women, but then when someone who clearly doesn't want a relationship with them appears in their life and texts them and is very flaky and doesn't treat them well, they continue to see them and they continue to text them back. So the application piece is really key, because you can read all the books, you can have a really great coach, you can do all the things you need to do and you know how to do, you can learn all of that information, but unless you're really applying it in your life, your reality in relationships simply isn't going to change. Really very sunny over here. So those three factors again: upbringing, inner work, and application. You may have had an upbringing where you saw your parents fight all the time, or you didn't have a healthy model for relationships. You can always choose to do the inner work, and you can certainly choose to apply that inner work to your relationships in every area of your life. We talk about love and dating a lot, and we talk about it like it's isolated from the rest of our lives, and it's simply not. How you are in one relationship is typically how you are in all relationships. So practice asking for your needs in a friendship. Practice that in a setting that isn't romantic, because then it becomes a learned ability. It becomes like a muscle that's used a lot, and it will be very easy then and very natural to ask for that in love. And also, when we've really done that work and we're asking for what we need and we're having healthy relationships with our friends, we are in a very different state, a different energetic state. We show up from a different place, and it's a lot easier to attract someone like that who's emotionally healthy into our lives. I hope this helped you, and I'll see you next week. If you do want to go deeper with this work, I have a brand new coaching program called the Relationship Reboot. It is 3 weeks. There are 3 sessions. The first session is a deep dive 90-minute session where we go really, really deep into what your patterns are, where they came from, and how to heal it. And then the other 2 sessions are 2 half-an-hour sessions. So you get a total of 2.5 hours with me one-to-one. All of that 3-week period, you have access to me to ask me questions, to send me voice notes, to go back and forth, and I can help you through the process as you're really applying and integrating this into your life. If you want the details, I'll put my contact information below. Please do reach out to me and we'll get you started. Lots of love.